That morning, Zoe called Mark and Dee to invite them over for brunch, telling them they had an update from the States. Ramus wanted to tell everyone at the same time what he and Mike talked about so he wouldn't have to repeat it to everyone. Once they gathered around the table, Ramus relayed the information Mike gave him. They were only slightly relieved, and it was cautionary. He told them the inquiry went all the way to the USAG's office, and they hoped to force the CIA to release the gens. In the meantime, they planned to look for the patents and birth certificates. The next week rolled by at a slow pace. Kat and Mel went to Salamanca to visit a few historical sites. They figured just sitting around the villa was counterproductive. Ramus and Zoe spent their time on a nearby beach. Zoe asked, "How long do you think it's going to take?" That was a loaded question. How long will what take? You know. How long do you think it will take for all of this to be sorted out, free the gens, and find the patents? You know Mike better than I do. Do you think he will succeed? I don't know, Honorable so far. He's come through for us as many times as we've asked him, but this time, I just don't know the answer. I do know how happy I am that you're safe. I'm happy that I'm sitting here with a beautiful woman, on a beautiful beach, watching beautiful sailing boats crisscrossing a beautiful blue-green bay. What more could I ask for at this moment? It's going to work out, sweetheart. I don't know how long it will take, but I believe we have the right people on the job. I can't imagine what my friends and the rest of the gens are going through. I wish I could say I was happy right now. And if I were, you'd be the best part of my happiness. Ramus smiled and kissed her. It's going to work out. Trust me. On the seventh day, one of the burners Dee was holding rang. The caller followed the process given to Jaina. Dee and Mark contacted Zoe and told her she'd received a call. Everyone met at the villa, so Zoe and Ramus could hear the message. First thing, Dee said, "It's legitimate," and the person followed the correct process. Then she played the message. "Hello, this is Team Leader Connie 9. I have been in contact with Jaina 201. She told me the process to get this message to those who can help us. We are in Madrid for the CIA. We expect to wrap this operation up in 1 week. If you want to meet up, please respond. I believe I have important information for you. Let me say this until then. Things are not what they seem. Code 1411. The group responded and decided to meet with Connie's team 2 days later. That allowed them time to find Mel and Kat so they could get involved. Once they contacted the two, everyone agreed to meet at the Museo da Historia, on call when Carol. Dee relayed the message to Connie, who responded with approval. The group met early the day before in Madrid. It was cloudy and raining. Mel and Kat spent the day doing tourist things, mostly shopping. Ramus mentioned to Mark, saying, how they could be so nonchalant. Mark answered, "Those two are among the most courageous people I have ever met. If they were in a firefight, they wouldn't have a problem stopping to look at a piece of art, or taking the sights as the bullets flew. That's why they could accomplish such a plan to take all that money and property right under Israel's and America's nose. Except for Zoe, I don't know anyone who can do things like that. They are both wild spirits as best I can explain it. But, in the past, your wife used to put them to shame. She must really love you, because she has tempered a lot. Honestly, I'm surprised. You're a lucky man, Ramus. I'm not saying Dee and I don't have a similar relationship, but if not for the circumstances, she might leave. That's my own opinion, because on the inside, I'm insecure." Ramus knew better than to reply. He wasn't getting in the middle of anyone's relationship. He knew what Mark said wasn't the case, just Mark's insecurity. Ramus found it interesting how the leader who managed the second gens, being so insecure, made little sense. It was an awkward moment. It was decided that Mark was to meet with Connie the next day at 2 p.m. at a small outdoor bistro next to the museum. Connie wasn't told who she was meeting, only that she'd recognize them. When she approached the bistro, she became faint at the sight of Mark sitting at the small table with 2 cups of coffee. She walked up to him, and as he stood, she grabbed him and held on tight. She shouted, "I thought you were dead. It's so good to see you alive. It's good to see you too. Honorable, how are you? Why are you here? What can you tell me, and how can we help? I'm not so good. I'm sure you know that already. My team and I are here looking for Congressman Cannon. We're supposed to find him and terminate him. I don't know why. It looks like he was a step ahead of us. We found his apartment, but it was empty. We think he moved out this morning. Cannon is here? How long has he been in Spain? No clue. It doesn't matter, he's gone now, and I don't know where. We'll stick around for another 2 weeks in case he comes back. I wish we knew he was here. We probably could have taken him out. Yes, I'm sure you would have. Last week I saw Jaina and Art during an operational meeting at the bay. Art passed me information so I could get in touch with you. We don't have problems getting messages to one another. That's how I knew how to contact you. Fortunate for us, the guards at the bay must have IQs around 50. I'm surprised they hired them as guards. It would only take one idiot to push the wrong button and we'd all be dead. We're taking bets on which guard will kill us, out of ignorance or stupidity, first. Anyway, we're desperate to know more about what's taking place outside of the bay, and what's being done to get us out of there. Yes. We contacted the USAG's office to get you guys out of there, and to force the government to comply with the previous court orders. Has anything changed at their bay? Is there anything you can tell me? Nothing has changed much, and we've heard rumors about a lawyer who contacted the AG's office, but the talk is they will move us before they let us go. We don't believe the CIA will let us go, Mark. We heard they're planning to move us to a compound in Saudi Arabia, but it will take some time to do that. They can't move us all at once. They'll move us a dozen at a time, because if we're all out of our cells at the same time, we can and will escape. You need to get in contact with your sources in the US and tell them what they're planning before they start moving us. You are the only person who can help us. We don't know who we can trust, and those in charge of the prison won't hesitate for 1 second to kill all of us. If we aren't any value to them, there's no need for us. I'm sorry. I'll get in contact with the US today and find out what went wrong. They should have been releasing everyone by now. Connie stood up, as did Mark. They hugged one another, and she walked away, disappearing into the crowd. When Mark returned to the hotel, he explained everything Connie told him. It concerned everyone that somebody in the line of trust was not so trustworthy. Every one of them assumed it was Mercer, the assistant AG. Upon returning to the villa in Barcelona, Ramos immediately called Mike. Hello. Hello, Mike. Why are the Gens still at Guantanamo? They should have released them by now. Ram, we have met resistance from the CIA and DOJ. They killed William Mercer in an auto accident last night, a suspicious accident. He was a good man, who rustled the wrong feathers, and the CIA or DOJ took him out. The AG is angry and wants heads to roll. He's also suspicious of both organizations. Let's treat this as just a bump in the road, Ram. What are you talking about, bump in the road? That makes no sense. Mike. Whose side are you on? Today, we met with a Gen who's operating here in Spain. She's telling us they're getting ready to move all the Gens to Saudi Arabia. That doesn't sound like things are going as planned, or a bump in the road. I didn't know. Let me call Jerome and find out what he knows. I'm confident no one in the chain knew about that. Well, we're dealing with the CIA. Can you call him now and call me back? We can't let this happen, okay? Yes, Ram, I'll call him now, and call you right back. Ramos was so mad he couldn't hold a conversation except to tell them Mike was looking into it. He walked out onto the back deck and took a seat. Zoe brought him an iced tea and sat next to him. The rest followed, taking seats on the back deck. 15 minutes later, Mike called back, Ram, things are in the works. Jerome got in contact with Silver Garnet, and Silver will contact the AG. Hopefully, they can at least prevent the transfer. As soon as you find out, call me back, because we're exceeding the anxious level here. Mike said, I forgot to mention, another operative was in Spain looking for Cannon. We believe he was in the country somewhere. Apparently, he fled to Paris and then moved from there to Madrid. We believe he found out and left Spain this morning. We think someone alerted him. You might keep an eye out for him, in case we're wrong about him leaving. Interestingly, it doesn't appear he's on the run as many believed. I'm certain he's getting help from the US government. The Jen Mark met with today was also looking for him. She intended to kill him. St. Paul may be cutting some loose strings. If we had been told this earlier, Mark could have taken care of himself. Just let everyone know that I'm on it. I'm not lollygagging around. I'm tired, but burning the candle at both ends. Talk to you later, Ram. Ramus relayed his conversation to the rest of the group. Everyone was dismayed at the thought of Cannon being within arm's reach and no one knew about it, although their main concern was to free the Gens. They could deal with Cannon at a later time, once the Gens were free. Silver called the AG, Arthur Moore, and explained to him what the CIA's intentions were. Moore was already mad at the CIA and promised to put a stop to the move the next morning. Once Moore made contact to prevent the move, the CIA went into action. If a Gen talked to the wrong people, it would be over for Whiteside. He'd be charged him with treason for the acts he forced the Gens to commit under his leadership. At 10 a.m. the next morning, Whiteside had all the guards gather the Gens into a conference room. The floor had the same electric circuits laid in every cell. Goodman wanted to kill them all, except the Saudis paid him a lot of money to have them sent to Arabia. Once transferred to Saudi Arabia, the Gens would be available to both the Saudi government and the CIA. All the Gens feared no one could help them then. The king hoped he could persuade them to perform covert acts for the country. There were other princes, associates, and leaders the Saudis didn't like. The king hoped to deal with them quietly. Whiteside ordered his guards to move the Gens in small groups, holding several back to ensure the preceding groups would comply. It was a stroke of luck when Herman 64 noticed the switch for the electrical floor was unmanned. The news spread quickly to every Gen in the room. They took that opportunity to escape. First, they took out the 6 guards and took their weapons. 6 first Gens took the weapons and made their way to the switch so no one could use it. Afterward, they quickly exited the prison, forcing every guard along the way to lay their weapons down. No one was to be killed until a first Gen, having a bout of paranoia, killed a guard. The rest of the first Gens followed suit, killing the remaining guards who got in their way. Art tried to stop them, but they wouldn't listen to him. Afterward, he shouted, "Second Gens, move away from the first Gens." They followed and headed in a different direction, leaving behind the alarms, screams, and gunfire. Although they went a different way, they knew the US would charge them for the murders of those men, just like they would the first Gens. Also, they were in Cuba. How were they going to leave the country? Where can so many Gens hide until they could get out of the country? They needed to get off the US compound first. Afterward, they could mingle in with the citizens. Everyone spoke Spanish, so there was no problem melting in with the locals. Once they were in a spot that allowed them at least 5 minutes pause, Art explained how to get a hold of Mark. He informed them Mark was working on the outside to get them released. He gave directions and told everyone to make their way to Santiago de Cuba. It was just a little over 60 miles away. Once there, they needed to meet up south of the town. He told them to hang around the airport and don't crowd. When Art got there, he continued into the airport looking for a plane to steal. Instead, he found a little shop where he stole a burner phone. He had to contact Mark and find out what resources he might have to help them out, so he called the number and left the message they had escaped and needed his help to get out of Cuba. Dee answered the cell and got Art's message. She contacted everyone and told them to meet at the villa. Dee said, "We got a call from Art. We need to listen and do what we can to help." She played the message, which was troubling, something unexpected. Afterward, Mel spoke up. "We got this. There's an airport in Santiago de Cuba, and Kat and I happen to own a private 727 that can carry that many people, all the second Gens anyway. With the new tourist laws in Cuba, we can fly in without too much trouble as wealthy European tourists." Mark asked, "Where's the plane and how fast can we get in the air?" Mel answered, "The plane is in our hangar in Madrid. We can get it into the air tomorrow. The four of us are certified to fly a Boeing 727, and it's big enough to carry everyone. Kat, and I'll fly in and pick them up. Once they're on board, we will take off, and if Zoe wants to go, she's more than welcome." Zoe jumped in with both feet. "I want to go." Mel said, "We'll leave tomorrow around noon and should be in Santiago by 4:10 a.m. the following morning. That means we will have to be in Madrid by 8 a.m. Mel said to Mark, "Call Art and leave a message for them to meet us at the Santiago de Cuba airport at 4:15 a.m. the day after tomorrow. Give him Dee's cell number so he can contact her in case things change." Mark called and left the message for Art. Once Art responded, they set the plan in motion. Dee left a message for Connie and her team to meet Mark at the museum, after explaining what took place at the bay. Mel registered the plane under the name of Margaret Henson. She made the proper fake identification for the name, and they had no problem getting the craft fueled or filing the flight plan to Cuba. No one asked questions, other than who was piloting the plane. Both Dee and Mel presented their licenses. From there, it was just a matter of fueling and leaving. Mark showed up with Connie before they were escorted onto the runway, so she joined the crew. He and Ramus watched as they took off and disappeared into the cloudy sky. Mark said, "Those women are amazing, aren't they?" "Yes, they are." "Did you know Mel had a plane?" "No, but that doesn't stop me from thinking they're remarkable. As far as Mel or Kat are concerned, you can never tell what they have up their sleeves. They have always been full of surprises. I can imagine Zoe thinking them a handful." Ramus agreed. Still, they worried about them should they run into trouble. Once in the air, Dee received a call from Art. The Gens had found a small airport outside of Santiago where they could land a large aircraft. It's overgrown but would be better than using the main airport where the United States might have placed operatives. Art asked, "What size plane are you flying?" Dee answered, "We are flying a 727. "Can we land there?" "Yes, the drug cartels have huge airstrips." "Okay, light it up at 4:05 a.m. Now, give me the coordinates." "D, get as close to the runway as you can before deviating from your flight plan. Otherwise, the US Air Force may be sent to intercept." "Okay, Art, I have the coordinates now, and we will meet you at 4:10 a.m., provided no wind resistance." "Everyone will be there. We are all looking forward to seeing you. We all owe you big time." "There's one more issue, D." "What's that?" "We came across a cell of third gens. There were 6. Somebody let them out, and they followed us. We can't leave them behind. They will tell the military how we got out of Cuba, which will cause problems for everyone. We won't kill them. That makes us no better than the CIA. What should we do with them? If it were up to me, I'd bring them along and deal with the consequences rather than leave them behind. That's my opinion. Please advise me." "No worries, Art. We all need to look out for one another no matter what gen we are. We will deal with them once we're back in the air. You know, we can always toss them out in the middle of the ocean, right?" D. "Are you serious?" "No, of course not. We can deal with them." The plane arrived 3 minutes late, and they had to hurry because deviating from their flight plan meant Cuba might come looking for them. Once everyone was on board and in the air, Mel contacted the Santiago airport stating the flight had to turn around due to a stowaway. She explained how a young teenage girl hid on board and was just found by a crew member. The controller asked, "Do you have enough fuel to return to your origin?" Dee answered, "Yes, we're good to go. Thank you, Santiago. We hope to return soon." "Good evening to you." "Good day," came the response. They were home free, provided the US didn't come after them. They were excited and confident the mission succeeded. Art entered the cockpit and asked, "Any plans on how we'll find places to stay?" Kat smiled and answered, "No problem, Art. We have a vineyard in Tuscany that's vacant. It used to be a large bed and breakfast and can handle everyone. You will become employees of the vineyard until we can figure this out. Art, here's what you need to do. Once everyone disembarks from the plane, divide up into small groups. We will get each group to the train station and provide everyone with enough euros to get them to Tuscany. I'll also give you enough money to live until we can get there. We'll wait a week before we come to be sure everything settles down. When traveling to Tuscany, stagger yourselves so you're not all on the same train at the same time. You don't want to draw attention to yourselves. Make the groups smaller than 10. It would be better if everyone paired up as couples and went 2 by 2, keeping a low profile. When you get there, you'll find a key to the hotel under a planter at the corner of the hotel. Once you're there, you can figure out how to get the gens situated. Did you get all that? Yes. Okay, now go relay that information to the rest. Once Art left the cockpit, Mel came over the intercom. Sorry friends, we didn't supply the craft with food. We were in too big a hurry, but we should be in Madrid in 7 hours. Try to get some sleep. Art will explain what you need to do when we get there. It's good to see all of you. Kat left the cockpit to speak with the third gens. They needed to know if they will be trouble. She found them sitting by themselves in the back of the plane. She approached and asked, "Which of you is the leader?" A young, tall, handsome man stood up and responded, "I am, and my name is Matthew." "Okay, Matthew, how come you were at the bay, under lock and key?" "We were there because we refused to perform certain medical procedures." "I will ask you up front. Are you going to be a problem? What do you plan to do once we land?" "Like the other gens on this plane, we want a fresh start. We want out from under St. Paul. We want our freedom." He paused, looked at the other third gens, and then said, "Ma'am, we're exhausted. They had us up for the last 3 days straight. Can we discuss this later, please?" 3 of them were nodding off already. "Of course, I'm sorry. Please rest and we can continue this after we land." She felt compassion for them and left them so they could sleep. 2 hours before arrival, Dee called Mark and asked him to withdraw 200,000 euros. Afterward, he was to rent 2 15-passenger vans and meet them at the hangar. Mark and Ramus stopped at the bank where Mark withdrew the money. A short taxi ride and they were at a car rental business where he rented the 2 vans. Before they left for the airport, Mark said, "Ramus, this kind of activity would get you noticed in the US, but in Europe no one even pays attention. Honestly, I believe they don't care." Ramus just nodded his head. Once in Madrid, the plane taxied into their private hangar. When the plane came to a stop and the hangar doors were closed, Mark and Ramus rolled a ramp up to the plane's hatch. Everyone poured out of the plane and walked around stretching, but when they recognized Mark, they mobbed him, hugging him and shaking his hand. Everyone was excited to see him. They ushered the 6 third gens into a small office because they didn't want to reveal their plans to them yet. Mel stood up on the ramp and shouted, "Listen up. The train leaves for Rome every 3 hours, so we will send 1 van every 3 hours to the train station and we'll deliver you 1 hour before each train. I know every one of you can find your way around, so we will drop you at the station. You need to break up into groups of 6 to 10 individuals, starting with Group 1, Group 2 and so on. The odd groups will purchase tickets for Rome, and the even groups will buy tickets to Tuscany. However, the odd groups will not buy tickets to Tuscany until they reach Rome." Mel had the gens stand by their group, and then she identified the leader of each group. She moved from one group to another when she could break from all the hugging. Mel shouted again, "Art's in the office making maps to the vineyard in Tuscany. Get one from him. It's a 20-minute walk from the station to the vineyard. Study the maps. I don't want you taking them with you and don't approach the vineyard in large groups. Understand, you need to pretend you're working your way through hostile territory. If possible, blend in with tourist groups going in the same direction. I doubt anyone will look for you here, but we don't want to take any chances or make a spectacle of ourselves." The first group got into Mark's van and they were off. He was back within an hour, and 2 hours later, the second group got into Ramus' van. Only Ramus didn't remember the way to the train station from the airport. They all laughed at him. Zoe drove the first group. At the end of the day, after all the second gens were on their way, Dee and Mel cleaned the plane. The other 4 went into the office to talk with the third gens. Mark asked, "We don't know a lot about you third gens, other than you're trained in the medical field. How did you end up at the bay?" Matthew answered, "We have already answered your question, but I'll tell you again. We refused to perform the medical procedures and research required by our supervisors. So, they put us there. I suspect they planned to terminate us before long." Ramus asked, "I'd like to know why you refused to perform those duties. There must have been a reason." "I was sitting at lunch one day when a young woman left a book on her table. When she left, I picked it up to give it back, but I didn't see what direction she went. Then, I returned to my table and opened the book to find out what it was about. I figure it was her technical book, and it would give me an idea of where to find her. Once I started reading it, I couldn't put it down. I read the whole book that day and reread it the next day. After reading, I felt something I'd never experienced before. It gave me new insights about right and wrong, as well as conviction. I didn't know what it was for a while after reading, but now I do. It was a powerful sadness for the things I was doing for St. Paul. To put it succinctly, I found life, I found Christ. I gave the book to Ryan. He read it and came to the same conclusion, as did the rest of my team here." Ramus asked, "Are you referring to the Bible?" "Yes. It was the Bible. We didn't understand too much at first, but we knew we couldn't continue what we were doing for St. Paul. So, we refused. Then, they put us in a deep hole, prison, for 2 years. 3 months ago, they moved us to the bay." Mark asked, "It's my understanding you're highly trained in medical research and procedures. Are you able to live a normal life?" "Certainly. We didn't live at the facility. We had apartments and enjoyed all the things most normal people enjoy. We will have no problem making it on our own." Kat asked, "Did you hear the instructions we gave to the other gens?" "Yes, we heard the instructions," she was yelling, "and we can follow through. The work we performed took us all over the world. We traveled all the time. I speak 47 languages. Rebecca speaks 53, so we're accustomed to blending in and getting around." The 4 of them left the room to discuss what they should do. They were confident the 6 of them wouldn't be a problem. When Dee and Mel finished cleaning the plane, they took one van back and returned it. With the other one, they took the third gens to the train station and dropped them off the next morning, so they could join the others in Tuscany. Afterward, they dropped off the second van and headed back to Barcelona. There was a sense of accomplishment and concern at the same time. They discussed the third gens all the way back to the villa. Later in the afternoon, Ramus received a call from Mike. Mike said, "Ram, there has been an accident. I'm not sure how to tell you this, so I'm just saying it straight up. I heard from Jerome just 10 minutes ago. He told me all the gens are gone, they're dead." "What do you mean, Mike?" "I don't have all the details, but I'll tell you what I know. I'm just sick to my stomach. The gens, both first and second, broke out of the bay. They killed 7 guards and made their way to the port on the bay there. They stole a Navy vessel and headed out to sea. It was a gunboat carrying ammunition and fuel. 50 miles out, 2 F-16s intercepted them, telling them to turn around. Instead of turning around, they fired 250 calibers at the planes. They gave the pilots the go-ahead to sink the ship. The blast was so big it nearly knocked the planes out of the air. No one could have survived such an explosion, Ram. The ship was in 6,000 fathoms of water. There will be no recovery, nor media response. They will keep it quiet. Please, tell Zoe, Mel, and Kat I'm so sorry. I need time, and they will need time to digest this. I'll tell them, and get back to you the day after tomorrow, okay? All right, I'll talk to you then, goodbye." Ramus was sad for the first gens, but he was at the same time happy for the second gens, and the third. When he told the others, they were both sad and happy. Zoe, Mel, and Kat cried for losing the first gens. It didn't matter, it was painful even if it was the first gens. The rest of the day turned out to be a mix of emotions. Dee called Art and told him what happened. He thought they brought it on themselves. Nonetheless, he was sad for them, but understood how it paved the way for their freedom. No one would look for them now, not in Europe anyway.